Intersection Podcast. Inspiration. Transforming lives from the inside out. The Intersection Podcast. With Ken Gober and Donnie Shell Jr. Is the Intersection Podcast? Come meet us at the crossroads.
Welcome to the Intersection Podcast. I'm your host or your co-host, Ken Gober.
And I'm Donnie Shell Jr.
And I'm Donnie Shell Jr. No, you know how we do it here at the Intersection Podcast.
It's going to be one of those.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. But we have an exciting guest, and I don't even want to call him a guest, but here at Charlotte Rescue Mission, he's our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Josh Wells. Welcome, man.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to be here. I was just telling Donnie, I didn't even know this space existed back here in terms of what it is used for. So I'm excited to use it now.
There you go.
There you go. So once again, we welcome you to our show. And if you've watched our show before, you know how we do it. We just we want to know the whys behind why people do things, and what better to talk to our staff, talk to our residents, talk to our community partners, because we're in a nonprofit space, but also we're believers of Jesus Christ. And it is our duty to go out and show the world and tell the world about his mercy, his grace, and his charity.
That's it. You know, we're excited to have I think it's our third guest.
Yeah,
We count you as a fourth guest?
Yeah, I guess so, man. I didn't get paid for that one, but
hey, we're not getting paid. So, you know, we are working for the mission here.
Whoa, I'm done then.
It's going to come out of Josh's budget.
There you go.
But no, we're just going to do some questions. Josh, we want to get a chance to get to know you. I think one of the things I'll say going into this is that as you were going through the process of becoming our COO, I think one of the things that came out of it was that, you know, everybody found out you had a lot of things that you were doing or have done in your past. And so kind of like that iceberg is that, you know, you see that peak up there, but you have everything underneath. And so we want to give you an opportunity just to be able to share some of those stories, some of that background, and just be able to talk to our team, our audience, just about yourself and what you do and what you're passionate about.
Sure.
So I guess Ken's got some questions. I am not responsible for any of these questions because Ken came up with them. But we'll go back and forth asking Josh some questions, and you know, whatever we say, we'll let the spirit move you. That's what we say. So,
absolutely. I'm good with that.
So Josh, just tell us just a little bit about yourself. Where you from? Where you grew up? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up in a small town. I always say Martinsville, Virginia, but it was really Collinsville, Virginia was our actual address. But grew up family. I've got 3 brothers. I've got an older brother, got a twin brother, and I've got a younger brother. My parents, religiously, if you will, we were in church, you know, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night, Saturday. If there was a revival, we were there if the doors were open. And you know, I think as I went throughout my life, a lot of times I tried to buck that, you know, rebellion, and didn't necessarily want to take that road. And you know, I joke all the time that, you know, sometimes I feel that I probably should be wearing a helmet as much as God taps me on my head and says, hey, you're going a little wrong in this direction. I need you to come back this way a little bit. And so, you know, great upbringing, great childhood. You know, graduated school, could have probably played Division III basketball, but chose not to, more out of rebellion. My dad was my high school basketball coach throughout my career, and we didn't have a great relationship during that time. And so I chose not to. I went to community college for 2 years, wanted to explore the extra freedom that I had after graduating high school and take advantage of that. But then went to Radford University, graduated from there in '99 with a degree in speech communication with a minor in marketing, and really fell in love with the sport of NASCAR and auto racing. And one of my good friends in college, we used to sit down at the local restaurant, drinking beer, talking about, you know, we're going to be in NASCAR one day. And that buddy, Marty, has fulfilled his lifelong dream. He's now on ESPN a great deal, and spends his days more in the college football arena now than anything. So for the first 10 to 12 years of my career, I was heavily in the sports marketing world, mostly on the NASCAR side of things. Managed a driver by the name of Rusty Wallace for about 3 years, and then helped open the office for Nextel when they took over. When Winston left the sport, Nextel took over as the Nextel Cup Series, opened that office for them and helped them launch that program. And then in 2009, actually 2008, I left that world, went into the world of dirt track racing with a company called World Racing Group. And in 2009, got a call from my wife. It was January 15th, 2009, 3:33 p.m.
Wow, you remember?
Got a phone call and from a New York number I did not know. And she said, "Hey." I said, "Hey, Amber?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm okay, but my plane just crashed. I'm on the Hudson River. It was a Captain Sullenberger flight. Wow. Captain Sullen.
Wow, your wife was
My
on
wife
that
was
flight.
on that. And that was a little bit of a life changer for me in terms of, hey, things aren't as bad as they seem. Whatever it is, you survive something like that. My daughter was 8 months old at the time. And what I kept going through my head was, man, I was this close to being a single dad to an 8-month-old.
Wow, yeah.
What would I have done? By the grace of God, she's got her mama here today to help raise her, because I hate to think what that child's life would have been, just with me as their single dad. You guys see the way I am in the hallways here, and she would have struggled a little bit probably. So, and it's no secret that at least here in our hallways that I'm an alcoholic in recovery. And I found my way to the mission 2 years ago, and started off as a case manager on our recovery living side. It's our aftercare program, and really developed a just strong fire for helping the people that we serve and being involved in their day-to-day lives and helping them get back into whether it's finding the right job for them, getting back to being used to going to your dentist and your primary care physician and paying taxes, paying off your probation fees, whatever it is, to help them get back into that day-to-day life, to get that step back in the right direction. And as you said, Donnie, the iceberg effect, it's funny you mentioned that, because in the interview process for this position, our former CFO looked at me and he said, "Hey, if you get this job, you're going to jump significantly in the org chart. How do you explain that to your peers? How do you explain that to the staff around here?" And I looked at him and I said, "Brian, the best way I can explain that is that, they've only seen 2 years of my career. They've seen that 20% of the iceberg that's above the water. They haven't seen the other 80%. And so that's why I was really excited. Public speaking's never been an issue for me. So I was really excited when Trina, our CEO, came to me and said, "Hey, you've got 7 minutes to introduce yourself at our next staff meeting." I said, "Fantastic."
Yeah, that was good.
Now
too.
I can bring that other 80% to light.
Yeah.
Because yes, there's some insecurities there, but it's really about when the Kens of the operation or Donnies of the world here at CRM look at me, I want them to understand that I'm at least semi-qualified for the position. Not that hey, he kind of fell into it because he was a good case manager over on the recovery living side, but that there is some meat behind that. So, and I love what I do. I'm excited about things ahead and couldn't feel more blessed.
And I think that's a perfect segue to our next question. So we talked about the process of interviewing for the role that you're currently in. So can you tell us a little bit about the role of the COO role? And
Sure.
What does that entail, and how many weeks, months are you in right now?
I'm about 7 weeks in.
All right, give us 7 weeks of what you've learned since
September 23rd was the first date.
He's really good with dates.
Yeah, he did those dates. At what time? What time, Josh?
Well, I was here probably about 6:30 that morning. That's usually my start time. So, I oversee Community Matters Cafe and all that entails. Fantastic staff there with Chef Kyle, who we were just speaking of before we came on air. Ashley Anna, is the GM of the cafe. I know her title's not GM, but I look at her as the GM. Will, Joni, Paula, Miranda, that whole leadership team
Great
at the cafe.
guys, yeah.
I walked into Trina and I were in the car for about 30 minutes yesterday, and I told her, I said, I don't think you could have scripted it any better for a new officer to come in with such a strong team behind them. And so I've got the Community Matters Cafe. Then I've got our IT department, which is where I'm probably the weakest in terms of my knowledge. But again, another strong team that they did a fantastic job of moving us from the old building into this new beautiful facility. And it was just absolutely seamless. And with that team, it's, from Leon to Deidre to Joe, they worked, they moved heaven and earth to make us get here. And I don't know, I've never heard one complaint from a staff member that says, well, when we got there, X wasn't ready or Y wasn't working properly. There might have been a couple of one-offs, but from a global standpoint, it was a fantastic move. And then probably one of the most active groups that falls into our department is the facilities team. They've got this bright new shiny toy here in the new Beatty Center, and it's fantastic to be here. But with a new building and a new building of this size, there's a lot of kinks and things to come about, and things that maybe we didn't think about, or B, that we thought this was going to work this way, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. It works a little bit different of a way. So it's just adjusting. And we're what, 6 months into the building, 5.5 months into the building right now. And so I think we're finally getting to a good cadence of what this is going to look like. And they take care of not only here at the Beatty Center and Rebound, the Humble House, Dove's Nest, and then I think we're up to 8 different properties for recovery living. So they make sure that each and every one of those facilities is in as good an operating shape as can be.
And you know what? I want to backtrack just a little bit too from the COO position. Prior to that, and like you said, you've been here 2 years prior to that. Tell us a little bit about the case manager piece, because I think a lot of people don't realize our case management piece is tied up into our aftercare program, which is probably one of a kind in this area. So prior to that, you were a case manager. Tell us about that role and the impact that role had on you.
Sure. When they come through the core program, they've got a counselor assigned to them. Our residents do. And when they leave and decide to stay with us in the recovery living, we didn't want them just, hey, here's to put it in terms that a lot of people will know, here's a halfway house, go there, figure it out. We wanted to still provide them with that accountability, that guidance, that leadership of let's help you navigate this. Early recovery is tough for a lot of people. A lot of people like myself, I walked out of treatment and walked back into my house
Walk back into life.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity. I consider myself, the first time someone said this to me, I was very offended until I thought about it. But he said, "You're a high bottom." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You didn't lose the house, the car, the wife, your kids.
Rock bottom wasn't like my rock bottom. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't get thrown in jail and have to go to treatment. I walked in voluntarily. And so it took me a second to not be so offended and not get my feelings hurt by somebody else's words. But once I thought about it and he explained himself to me, I said, okay, you're back on my good side now. But, I think the biggest thing I miss about being on the recovery living side is the being so intimately involved in their day-to-day lives and watching the change. It's recovery living isn't a perfect program, meaning we don't have 100% success rate. We've probably got a 40% success rate. It's a 2-year program that they're allowed to stay with us at one of our properties with incremental program fees. We don't call it rent for a couple of reasons. A, it doesn't cover the rent. It's a fraction of the rent. B, it's because it gets them access not only to the case manager, but to all of the ancillary programs we have, whether it's workforce development programs that we have, whether it's trainings that we have, whether it's access to lower rent properties through a great program called the Lotus program, who helps them secure housing on their own, and they cover anywhere from security deposits to first month's rent to renter's insurance to take away some of those barriers. And so I think, for my part, I think the case managers that are there now, that team is incredibly strong. Maybe they might be a little bit of the unsung heroes of our group right now, because
that's what I want you to bring
they're
back.
our aftercare. And at times, a lot of people might disagree with me, but it's kind of an afterthought. The people here in this building, and maybe it's because they're separate, they're across the parking lot. It's not always thought of in the front of their mind, but it's incredibly rewarding work. It's incredibly. I didn't know that passion fatigue or compassion fatigue was a thing until I started working here and working in that role, because you pour so much into those individuals. You care so much about what they're doing every day that, you do answer the phone at 10 o'clock at night, because if someone has relapsed or needs to get back into a detox, or heaven forbid they've OD'd, those guys, sometimes I think they may be looked at and they're like, oh yeah, you guys do exist. I think that every one of them that are on that team have a passion and a drive, just like everybody else here in the building does. But you have such a more close relationship with the residents, because you are in their lives every day.
And you're taking them, I think you said something interesting too, you're taking them to the next step, which is the most important step, because in our core program, once I find out who I am, right? Okay, and once I understand some of the things that hindered me and try to correct those, now I have to, what we call, walk it out. Right. Well, I think a lot of people don't understand in the community too the importance of aftercare, because back in the day it was a 28-day program, and like you said, all right, see you later. I hope you stay clean.
Yep.
But we're doing an awesome task to say, okay, I hope you stay clean. But however, if you want to be a part of this journey for a little bit longer, we'll walk this journey out for you. And I think by you coming over as a case manager and having the life experiences that we'll talk about in the second half, but having the life experiences, I think you bring a lot to your role as a COO. And so that leads me to my next question. So with your new role, how does that role impact CRM, our residents, and the community?
I think as far as how my role impacts CRM and the community, I think it's mostly as it relates to recovery living, having that experience, knowing really from a budget standpoint what it takes to make that happen, to, for me, from an operational standpoint, and I think everybody on our executive team is in agreement. I don't know what this looks like yet, but I would love to have it more as a centralized housing. If we can look at building, for lack of a better term, a hotel or an apartment complex, or take one over, if we can find the right situation to have everybody centralized. Because you all know from working in this industry, community is everything.
Yes,
and if you can create that community and all on one piece of property and have 100 to 150 to 178, sorry, that number 178 stuck in my head because I just looked at a property yesterday that had 178 rooms. At one time, it was 112.
At what time?
112.
He knows it, man. That's amazing.
But it's that property was fantastic. A little bit out of our price range, but there was 178 rooms at that property, and so that's my dream. Yeah. Obviously, if you look at it, you say, okay, we get the property, that's good. No, that comes with increased staffing. That comes with increased insurance liability. That comes with a number of different things. So it's just not the cost of the property that is the issue. It's the can we fill not only 178 beds, which I think we could get there pretty easily. It's more about how many people does that facility take to operate? How much money does that cost when it comes to salaries, overhead, insurance benefits, insurance against the property, vehicles? How many vehicles do we need to have there? Things of that nature. And as in terms of how it impacts the community, I think everybody that sits in our wing is, and you guys know, I told you I dressed up for the podcast yourself, but I'm going to a dinner for one of our partners tonight. Everybody in our wing, it seems like 4 out of 5 nights every week, somebody is going to a dinner to support something in our community. And I know a lot of people hear the name Charlotte Rescue Mission and may not want to give their name or email address or phone number because I don't want a phone call to be solicited for donations, but it's more than just soliciting donations for us as an agency. It's how do we impact the community and give back and support the community. Not only, hey, come support us, give us money, give us clothes, give us the supplies for the residents, things of that nature. It's how can we spread that love. I had breakfast with one of our partners last week, and I think we do a really good job of sharing the sugar. So your neighbor comes over, can I borrow a cup of sugar? Absolutely. I don't think we have any problem making introductions. You know, if Donnie Shell Incorporated, who's a nonprofit in the same world we're in, comes to us and says, hey, would you mind making an introduction to Goodwill for us? Absolutely. Let us know how we can help. I'll walk you to the front door. We want to make sure that we're sharing the sugar. We're not here to say, it's all ours. We want our name on it. We want everything going, out as Charlotte Rescue Mission. We want the community to be healthier with what we do.
That's good. That's good. I think it's a break time, man. I need to get some water, some donuts.
We got donuts? We got a budget for that? That's amazing if we do.
During the break, I want to talk about the pay. Since you guys said we weren't getting paid.
But now we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this. We are back. Short little break. We did not have donuts. Hopefully we'll get some water next time. But we're back with Josh Wells. We had a great first segment, just him talking about a little bit about yourself and what you do here for the mission. This part, we really want to kind of get into more of your why. And so as those may know, this is the Intersection Podcast. We say meet us at the crossroads. And so, Josh, what I want to ask is that what are some of those crossroads that you faced in your life that allowed you to sit in this seat today? And when I say crossroads, it's I either had to make a decision going this way or going another way. What was that decision? Some may be bad, some may be good, some may be affect others. What were some of those crossroads that you faced that brought you to sit in the seat today? Sure.
I think the biggest crossroads, and if I put it in my terms, I would call it the crossroads for me was the year I decided to go to treatment. And just so you guys know, I don't always talk about how much time I have clean. Today I've got honestly I've got 11 hours and 11 minutes of sober time, and that's every morning I wake up and I look at my watch and I can say I got up at 4 this morning, so I've got 11 hours and 11 minutes of clean time today. And then because as an alcoholic, I could leave here, go to the gas station, and that clock resets, and so for me, the year I got sober, I remember the date. It was July 10th. My favorite thing to do was my wife and daughter be out of town and close myself in my house. I'd have enough vodka to get me through the weekend, never leave the house, ordered food in all weekend. And I remember very, very plainly, it was, I don't remember exact time, but it was around midnight. I knew I didn't want to be on this earth anymore in that particular situation and in that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And my cousin, her name's Kim. Shout out Kim. Kim. She intelligent beyond belief. She's got more letters after her name. She leads a nursing program at a college in Virginia. And I texted her and I said, I don't want to be here anymore in this current situation. And she asked me if I could hold on until the morning and we would figure it out. And she said, if you're in crisis, call me. But if you can wait until morning, we'll get it figured out. And 4 days later, I walked into a treatment facility that she helped me vet. We looked at several different ones. She said, what I'm thinking is this, because they have doctor on site, they have, everything you should need. And I said, I don't need to hear anymore. Let's figure it out. And I made the phone call. I can tell you the parking space I was sitting in, looking over the train tracks with a beer in my hand, when I made that phone call to go to treatment. And, the thing that hit me the most, and you asked me about the crossroads, that was the crossroads. But, in terms of my why, it's my 16-year-old daughter. And it hit me once I got to treatment that for the first several years of her life, if she was in the car with me, 95% chance there was alcohol in my system. And that took a long time to get over. The guilt and the shame that came with that was tremendous. That took me, I don't know that I can say I'm still over that, because, every once in a while a memory comes up or a twinge of regret and you start thinking, you let your mind wander a little bit. And so it's bringing those thoughts back. But to me, that was the crossroads of making a decision that I need to do something. And it's not just about me anymore. It's not just about, Josh being selfish and making his own decisions. It's about, reconnecting with Christ, reconnecting with my family. Again, I had a high bottom. I didn't have anybody abandon me. My family supported me 100% throughout that process. And that's, that became my why of what I'm doing now, is that I realized that not everybody has the support that I had, and how blessed I was to have that support. And so to be able to turn around and give that back is tremendous. And I think that it's impacted my life in so many different ways, but 99% of them positive. That even my daughter, who's always had a heart the size of this room, she comes here, volunteers at the cafe 2 to 3 times during the summer. I've already got her scheduled for Christmas to come in a couple of days to help out the recovery living team, print some books, bind them, whatever it is. And she even built a bookshelf, painted it, decorated it, and collected about 65 children's books and donated it to Dove's Nest, because we have children who come there with their mothers. And she built it for them. And while I was in treatment, that's where that started. She came to see me on my family day there, and they had a room set aside for little ones if they didn't want to participate in the family therapy. And my daughter looked in there, and I was nervous about her seeing me. And
yeah, that's because that's your why.
That's it.
Called my wife the next day, and I said, "Hey, how was Ray?" That's my daughter. And she goes, the one thing she talked about on the way home was the next time we go, she wants to create some activities, some crafts for the kids whose parents are in there. And
wow.
Just such a dark time in my life to have such a positive influence on her life.
Yeah.
Was tremendous.
That's awesome, man.
And you know what too? You said something earlier that struck a chord, and it brings you back to this piece. So what happens is, a lot of times, I grew up in a church as well too. And when you grow up in, I think most of us, you grew up in a church, especially younger. You want to be cool. A lot of times I listen to the Christian stations, and they always say, I was saved at 10 and I was on fire. Okay. But when you get 13, 14, 15, you want to be cool. So you kind of push that aside. Yeah. But here's the interesting thing about it. And it's one of the reasons why I believe your rock bottom and our rock bottom is different from others is because God has us, once we're his, we're his. Mm-hmm. Right. So your rock bottom to you is a lot of times if you compare it, oh man, it wasn't like that. Well, it wasn't like that because God had you in his care.
Absolutely.
And I think that is that strong piece too of God coming back saying that you're mine, right? And I'll let you do this and I'll let you do a little bit of this, but this, no, you're not doing that because I got to keep you in my care. That's the testimony, right? That's the testimony. So then, do you think? Yes, you're a COO now, but as you know, and our listeners may not know, but they will know. Regardless of what your job is, Donnie is develop. What you do, man?
Community engagement, man. That's why I got to be a guest one day, so we can tell people what to do.
Yeah, no. So Donnie's community engagement. Our DJ over there is what you do, man? Development. He do a lot.
You can't hear him. But
yeah, you can't
he's
hear
the person that handles all of the money. So
yeah, he has and reports with all the money. We got COO. I don't know what I do here, but the thing about it is, whatever we do here, one of our main missions is to support the residents, though, right? You can find any one of us walking down the hallways, doing our regular tasks, and you can see us stopping and talking to a resident from our perspective. My question is, so with that well-rounded perspective of loss, of tragedy, of defeat, and then of victory, how do you think what you pour into our residents, connect with, yes. How do you think you connect best with our residents? Because there used to be a saying on the street, game recognizes game, right? And
it's still relevant.
It's still there. So sometimes when you're talking to someone, the first thing they say is, you don't know what I'm talking about, what you're talking about, until you give your testimony. So how do you think that your best way of you connecting with the residents, and now in this role now too? Yeah.
I think for me, I always, there's a term that says recover out loud. And I made a decision when I went to treatment that I wasn't going to be bashful. I wasn't going to, that song when we're growing up, This Little Light of Mine.
Yeah, I'm going to let it shine. Yeah.
I'm not going to not tell people of my story. And I found out real quick when I was working on the recovery living side, it earns you so much credibility. Within the first 2 sentences of me speaking with a resident, they know I'm an alcoholic. And the change in conversation is vast. And working on the recovery living side, we've got a gentleman over there by the name of John DeSantos who isn't in recovery. He's never been an addict, but he's got 25 years at the Mission in downtown New York
correct.
City. And that lends his credibility. For me, I don't have 25 years. I've got 2 years. And so that I can tell them that I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're feeling. I know exactly what you're thinking. And here's how I handled it. Right or wrong, here's how I handled it. And then I can use that as a mini case study, if you will, to say, don't make the same mistake I did. Or this really helped me out. It helped me to get involved in the community. It helped me to... Full disclosure, working here helps me, because I see the hope that we as a staff can provide these young men and women, and that is a game changer. And I would be willing to bet that 75% of folks who go to treatment, the first thing they say when they want to do when they get out is, I want to become a counselor. I want to work in the substance use disorder.
I see that in the industry all across the city.
And that may happen about 10% of the time, realistically. Because let's be honest, success rate on recovery, especially early recovery, is probably around 35%. And so that closes the gap significantly, or widens it, I guess you would say. But in terms of how else I relate to them, it's just like everybody else here. You have an immense amount of compassion, love, zero judgment. We see people come in from all walks of life. Every criminal background you could imagine has walked through these doors, and we still accept them with open arms, and we offer them the same love and and respect and care that our Father shows us. And that's what, the favorite part of my job is being able to share my story, but also Christ's love. And to say that, you may be a 10-time felon. It's okay. I still want to speak to you the same way I will to our CEO.
Yeah.
The same respect level that you deserve as a human being. And that's what you are when you walk in the doors. You're not a number. You're not an addict. You are an addict, but we see you as a human being. We see you as a soul that we can offer assistance to. And that's I think that to me is the coolest part about what we do.
And the uniqueness here at
Yes.
Charlotte Rescue Mission.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't know if we could
good.
ask for a better, a better interview. Josh, on behalf of us, what we're doing here, we just appreciate you
Yes.
being able to be so open and transparent with your story. And we hope that with people that's watching this can be able to relate to, your story, where you've been through, but also, just like Kim was saying, we're all here for our residents. And so
Absolutely.
we want to make this a platform, not just for us, but for them to also share their story. So on behalf of what we do here, man, we appreciate everything you've shared with us
thank
today.
you, Josh.
I don't know, you might be back. We might ask it.
Yeah,
you might
yeah.
might take our jobs. Kim.
Yeah,
I don't know. It sounds really good with the hosting, but once
Really
again,
appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the Interception Podcast. We'll be back at some point. We may get Ryan to be in front of the camera at some point. He's looking at me with death stare. So
One
that means
day,
it's time
yeah.
for us to go. But thank y'all for watching. We'll catch you next time.